Colleague Anthony and I will present the Cork CUTLER platform, provide a brief demonstration of the system and its functionality, and outline how the platform assists policymaking. First, we log into the system using our personal username and passwords. This is a bespoke interface and unique to each pilot city. After logging into the platform, we are first brought to the policy page, which outlines the Cork policy and specifies the goal, action and impact of the process. The overall goal for the Cork pilot is to develop Camden Fort Meagher into a leading tourist attraction, and this can be achieved by improving access to the site. In the context of the CUTLER project, we consider 3 access developments: access to the fort by sea through a newly built structure, improved access to the fort by developing new parking facilities, and improved access to the fort by walking and cycling. During the first phase of the project, we focused on developing the car access policy and accompanying process model. However, following the midterm review and the comments provided by the reviewers, we developed a new sea access policy, which we will demonstrate today. Now we will select Start New Process and select the sea access policy option to begin. After commencing the sea access policy, we enter the policy overview page, which outlines the current task that we are about to commence, the business process model underpinning the platform and the policy scenario, and the list of the various other tasks in the process. Now we will begin our first task, Get Overview of Camden Fort Meagher. The first task allows the user to consider information about the development goals as well as the socio-economic and geographic conditions of the fort. This is the first task in the informed phase of the IMER process, underpinning the platform, and it helps the policymaker to determine whether to implement the policy. The first widget provides an overview of the site and presents the policymaker with background information, a description of the site and a target goal of where we want to be in terms of visitor numbers. Cork County Council aim to develop the site into a viable and sustainable year-round operation, attracting more than 100,000 visitors per year. The policymaker is then presented with 3 similar economic graphs, which display the actual daily visitor and revenue per day, the average number of visitors and revenue per year, and the total number of visitors and revenue per year. This is historic information which provides us with a baseline. For example, we can see that almost 18,000 visitors to the fort accounted for 270,000 revenue in 2018, and this increased substantially by 2020. Policymakers are also provided with an interactive conflict map with a variety of data layers. This allows the user to consider any potential environmental conflicts which may or may not affect decision making, such as special protection areas. For example, we can now see that the proposed future ferry route, as well as the special protection areas located in proximity to the fort. We can use the measurement tool to assess the distance between these 2 factors and consider if this will be problematic for our policy. We also have a site-specific map, which provides a data overview of the site and the key policy considerations, such as pier location, bus routes, conservation areas. The benefit of this map is that it provides the policymaker an immediate overview of the site. Finally, in this task, we are also presented with a list of relevant policy documents and websites, which can be used to inform the decision-making process. This functionality was welcomed by policymakers, who suggested that the repository would improve the efficiency for decision-making, as it would reduce the time required to locate the relevant policy documents and further information. When the user is finished reviewing the baseline information, we can leave a comment such as initial baseline data reviewed, and this will be saved on the system for future consideration. Now that the baseline data has been reviewed, we are happy to proceed to the next task of the process, and we select Finish and Next Task. The second task on the informed phase of the process considers social data sources to provide the policymaker with the data related to social sentiment. The user can consider 4 tabs here, each with a different source of social data: Twitter, surveys, GDELT, TripAdvisor. For the purpose of this demonstration, we will consider Twitter and the survey data in the informed phase. First, we will assess Twitter data. This data is mined from Twitter from a selected time period and is site-specific to the Cork region. This is important and novel for decision making as it gathers public sentiment about the site and the surrounding area. As we can see below, the dashboard provides a variety of widgets which the user can interact with to consider data relevant to the site. For example, you can filter the data by specific keyword or phrase, which will return all data entries specifically related to the user's request. In this regard, we will filter by the phrase Cork Harbour. While previously there were 570,000 tweets, we now only have 846 tweets, which are specific to the key phrase. This functionality is extremely beneficial as it allows policymakers to track public discourse on social media, and this is useful in identifying key trends and social sentiment associated with certain developments or decisions made. There are also a variety of other functionality available on the dashboard, including the ability to filter by hashtag, analyse by placing limits on the number of retweets an item may have, and consider tweets by timeline and sentiment. These are all important functionalities and very beneficial for the policymaker. We will now consider the data from our surveys at the site. This functionality allows us to visualize and assess data gathered from online site-specific and other surveys relating to the policy. The first survey data is from a survey conducted for the CUTLER project in 2019. In total, 269 surveys were completed and asked the respondents a variety of questions regarding access to the fort, reasons for visiting, the options on future development. Once more, the user can use a variety of filter functions to consider keywords and phrases. The filter data by time period. This type of survey provides the policymaker with information concerning social sentiment of how the general public would like to see the fort develop in terms of access and visitor numbers. For example, using the question 6, which shows strong positive public opinion on sea access, this enables the policymaker to consider public opinion on future development opportunities, improve enable targeting funding, and facilitate improved market analysis. It is important to note that the survey template can be adapted easily in order to assess whatever data is required by the decision maker. Again, we are happy to proceed to the next task of the process, and we select Finish and Next Task. The final task in the inform phase considers specific data about the sea access policy, and the user can assess data from 5 tabs. For demonstration purposes, we will consider the tourism data, water level monitoring data, and water quality data. First, we will assess the tourism data. This dashboard contains data in relation to tourism in Ireland and tourism trends and preferences. The first 4 pie charts contain visitor numbers and revenue generated per country for Camden Fort Meagher and are important for policymakers to consider the local and international tourist markets for the site. For example, we can see from the graph that 76% of visitors are from the Irish market, accounting for 72% of the revenue. This is a key consideration for policymakers and can allow for targeted marketing strategies and campaigns for the future growth and development of the fort. The remaining graphs under this tab identify the key tourism information for Ireland and for Cork where appropriate in relation to visitor preference and patterns, such as the most visited tourist attractions in the region. Again, the main benefit of this is that it will allow for targeted marketing campaigns and decision support capacity, as was welcomed by our tourism team. We'll now proceed to water level monitoring. The water level monitoring data provides live data at 5 to 15 minute intervals from 2 relevant sensors which impact on our site. These are Ballet and Ringaskiddy. Combined with the conflict map, this allows the decision maker to consider flood risk for development. For example, if we select the pier location and car parking locations at Camden Fort Meagher on the map, as well as the various coastal flood data layers, we can see that certain areas are prone to flooding. This data, when combined with existing flood data, can assist to identify potential flood events and areas which could be susceptible to flooding in the future. So now, if we open the water quality tab, and in relation to this data, into this dashboard, the water quality dashboard displays data from 6 monitoring stations, capturing data from 10 parameters. Policymakers can filter data by each monitoring station, as well as the 10 environmental parameters. For example, if we filter by Roach's Point and chlorophyll, we can see the key water quality data from the station. The key benefit of this information is that it provides real-time monitoring and provides the policymaker with accurate, up-to-date information concerning water quality in the environs of the site. Now that we've assessed the relevant data in the inform phase, we can now move to the advise phase of the platform. We are happy to proceed to the next task of the process, and we select Finish and Next Task. The advise phase of the platform considers the predicted or estimated impacts of implementing the policy. The policymaker can analyse statistics and figures that show how the C-axis policy would impact on economic, environmental and social data. It is important to note that this is the last planning task before the policy is implemented. For the purpose of demonstration, we will consider 3 data sources. First, we will assess the economic forecasts for sea transport. This dashboard presents the predicted economic forecasts for sea transport at Camden Fort Meagher. Should the policy be implemented, the policymaker can consider 4 widgets, which look at operational costs and visitor numbers. The first widget presents the forecasted sailing and fixed costs of sea transport, and this can be used to consider the operational costs of the infrastructure. The second and third widget present the predicted average visitors per day to the fort and the estimated average costs of operating the sea transport infrastructure per day. The final widget considers the cost of reconstructing the pier infrastructure required for the new access route. The key benefit of these data sources is that the policymaker can consider the cost of developing the new access route over a 4-year period, and this will assist in budgeting requirements. We can also consider some data in relation to economic impact and the forecast for visitor numbers. There are 2 widgets of significance in this tab. First, the widget on the left side presents the forecasted average daily number of visitors and revenues per year for the site. This allows us to identify the potential daily visitor numbers to be accommodated at the fort. As you can see from the graph, it is anticipated that the fort will receive an average of 277 visitors per day in 2021. The second widget of importance here is the Economic Impact Assessment tool, which allows the policymaker to anticipate a change in revenue or retail sales in the Cork region on a series of economic indicators such as GDP. For example, we can test a policy scenario where tourism revenues increase by 8%. Anthony will filter here now by 8%. We can see that an 8% increase in tourism revenue results in a significant positive impact on economic factors in the region. GDP increases by 2.4%, while unemployment decreases by almost 1%. This functionality allows the policymaker to assess the impact that the development of the site has on the widespread economic variables across the wider community. Finally, we will also consider some of the environmental data available to assess the predicted impact of the policy and conclude whether or not the proposed development is viable. Within this tab, we have 8 interlinked widgets that assess the environmental impact of emissions of cars and boats. The widget on the right presents data in relation to emissions from cars and boats and 3 associated emission types. Evidently, it is clear from this graph that the emissions from cars far outweigh that of boats. We can further assess this information by filtering by a specific year and emission type. The data we presented with is based on the first year of operation, with almost 60,000 visitors. The associated widgets clearly shows that emissions from cars significantly outweighs emissions from boats. This allows the policymaker to consider the potential environmental benefits or not of future decisions, and emphasises that utilising a sea transport option would reduce the amount of cars accessing the fort, which is more environmentally friendly. Now that we've assessed all the baseline information in the informed phase and the predicted information in the advised phase, the policymaker is required to determine whether to continue with the policy implementation. If this decision maker is happy with the policy, the user selects no under the need for planning and then submits the form and moves to the next task. In this instance, we are happy to implement the policy and proceed. So we now proceed to the monitor sea access. Once the policy has been implemented, data is collected from a variety of sources over a predefined period. In most instances, this will be a real-time data. Therefore, the monitoring phase of the platform is just the visualization of collected working data, and no analysis or assessment is made. The user can monitor how the sea access is performing in action, whether it's living up to the expectations or whether it needs to be adapted as far as this is possible. As such, this data is objective. For the purposes of demonstration, we will briefly mention two data sets. Firstly, we will consider Economics Sea Transport tab and the associated data. This tab has 4 widgets presenting data in relation to sea transport costs per day, visitors per day, total costs per month, and pure reconstruction costs. This is all monitored actual data produced after the policy has been implemented. This information will be used in the evaluation phase to follow, to assess whether the policy has been successful or not. However, policymakers can continuously monitor this data to flag any issues of concern and address them if required. Again, this is also the same for tourism data. The data has been collected continuously during the predefined time period, and this will be assessed during the evaluation process. The policymaker can consider real-time data relating to the origin of visitors to the fort and associated revenue, as well as daily average visitor numbers. For example, if we can filter monitoring data to include data from 2022 and 2025 and include 5 years from now, the policymaker can now consider the policy impact over a 6-year period of time, with the obvious impact of sea access and improved visitor numbers evident here. Now that we've assessed all the relevant data in the monitoring phase, we can move to the evaluate phase of the platform, where we will assess the impact of the implemented policy. We are happy to proceed to the next task of the process, so we select Finish and Next Task. The final phase of the IMR process involves evaluating and implementing policy to determine if it has met expectations and delivered the desired results. Here we are evaluating and the implemented measure after a predefined time period. During this task, the actual data is evaluated against the forecasted figures to assess if the policy was successful. For the purpose of the demonstration, we will consider the economic variables and assess whether the implemented policy has been successful. The first 2 widgets present the daily average number of visitors and revenue to Camden Fort Meagher per year, as well as the total number of visitors and revenue per year. This data shows clearly that there has been a significant increase in tourism numbers and revenue since the policy has been implemented. The following 3 widgets demonstrate the effectiveness of the implemented policy in relation to the use of sea transport access route. It is clear that the policy has overachieved, with the actual values exceeding the predicted visitor numbers. The following 4 graphs present information in relation to international visitors to the fort and associated revenue. This is important for marketing analysis purposes. While it was estimated that 24% of visitors would be from the US, the actual figure was 23%. This is also evident in relation to revenue. As such, this information will assist in the development of future marketing strategies and identify gaps in the market which can be targeted for existing markets that can be further exploited. We can also evaluate data in relation to C-axis costs per day. These three charts present the data in relation to sea transport average cost per day. We can see from the three widgets the actual costs were higher than the estimated values due to the fact that there were more visitors than anticipated. This once more emphasises that the policy has been successful and achieved its main objectives to increase visitor numbers to the fort. The final two widgets evaluate the cost of pier construction. The two widgets compare the estimated and actual costs of construction. As can be seen from the data, the actual costs were higher than the estimated costs. Our analysis of the data has shown that the C-axis policy has been successful and overachieved on all the predicted values. More visitors have visited the fort and used the C-axis infrastructure than expected, resulting in increased revenue. This has also meant that operating costs exceed those that were expected. However, this is counteracted by the increased revenue on the site. As such, the policymaker can conclude that the policy has been successful, that no changes are required. The user then scrolls to the end of the page, selects Yes under Results OK, and selects from Submit and Next Task. This brings the policymaker to the end of the process. This demonstration has described the IMOR process underpinning the platform and demonstrates how it can be used to assist policymaking. The CUTLER system is adapted and can be used in a variety of departments in Cork County Council to improve decision making. This has been mentioned by stakeholders in our organisation who have recognised the vast potential of the platform to be implemented at a local authority level. Thank you.